Judges 20. Assembly of the Israelites. So all the Israelites came out as one, from Dan to Beersheba, including the land of Gilead, and assembly gathered to the Lord at Mizpah. The leaders of the people, all the staff bearers of Israel, presented themselves in the assembly of the people of God, 400,000 foot soldiers who carried swords. Meanwhile, the Benjamites heard that the Israelites had gone up to Mizpah. The Israelites asked, "How has this evil thing happened?" And the Levite, the husband of the murdered woman, testified, "It was at Gibeah of Benjamin, which my concubine and I had entered for the night. The lords of Gibeah rose up against me and surrounded me in the house that night. I was the one they intended to kill, but they abused my concubine and she died. So I took my concubine, cut her up, and sent her throughout every part of the territory of Israel, because of the terrible thing they had done in Israel. So now, all you Israelites, give your judgment and counsel in this matter." All the people rose as one to say, "None of us will leave our tents or return to our homes. Now, as for Gilead, this is what we will do. We will go up against it by lot, taking from all the tribes 10 men, 400 and 100 for every 1,000, 1,000 for every 10,000, and will procure supplies for the soldiers who will go and exact from Gibeah of Benjamin the full measure of a terrible thing it committed in Israel." So all the men of Israel gathered against the city, united as one. The tribes of Israel sent men throughout the tribes of Benjamin to say, "What is this evil that has occurred among you? Now give up the men, the scoundrels who are in Gibeah, that we may put them to death and thus purge the evil from Israel." But the Benjamites refused to listen to their kindred and the Israelites. Instead, the Benjaminites assembled from their cities at Gibeah to march out to battle with the Israelites. On that day, the Benjamites mustered from their cities 26,000 swordsmen, in addition to the inhabitants of Gibeah, who mustered 700 picked men who were left-handed, every one of them able to sling a stone at a hair without missing. The men of Israel without Benjamin mustered 400,000 swordsmen, all of them warriors. They went up to Bethel and consulted God. When the Israelites asked, "Who shall go up first for us to do battle with the Benjamites?" the Lord said, "Judah first." The Israelites rose in the morning and encamped against Gibeah, war with Benjamin. The Benjamin of Israel marched out to do battle with Benjamin and drew up in the battle array against them at Gibeah. The Benjaminites marched out of Gibeah that day and felled 22,000 men of Israel. But the army of the men of Israel took courage against and drew up for battle in the place where they had drawn up on the previous day. Then the Israelites went up and wept before the Lord until evening. "Shall I again engage my brother Benjamin in battle?" they asked the Lord. And the Lord answered, "Attack." When the Israelites drew near and the Benjamites on the second day, Benjamin marched out of Gibeah against them again and fell 18,000 Israelites, all of them swordsmen. So the entire Israelite army went up and entered Bethel, where they wept before the Lord and fasted until the evening and pressed burnt offerings and communion offerings before the Lord. The Israelites consulted the Lord for the Ark of the Covenant, and the Lord was there in those days. And Phinehas, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron, was standing in his presence in those days and asked, "Shall I again go out and battle with my brother Benjamin, or shall I stop?" The Lord said, "Attack, for tomorrow I will deliver him into your power." So Israel set men in ambush around Gibeah. When the Israelites went against the Benjaminites the third day, they drew up against the Gibeah as on the other occasion. When the Benjamites marched out to meet the army, they again, as on other occasion, to strike down some of the troops along the highways, one of which goes up to Bethel and to Gibeah in the open country. About 30 Israelites were slain. The Benjamites thought they were routed before us as previously. The Israelites, however, were thinking, "We will flee and draw them out from the city onto the highways." Excuse me. Then all the men of Israel rose from their places, forming up at Baal Tamar, and the Israelites in ambush rushed from their place west of Gibeah and advanced against Gibeah with 10,000 picked men from Israel. The fighting was severe, but no one knew that a disaster was closing in. The Lord defeated Benjamin, and on that day the Israelites killed 25,100 men of Benjamin, and all of them swordsmen. The Benjaminites saw that they were defeated. The men of Israel gave ground to Benjamin, trusting in the ambush they had set at Gibeah. Then the men in ambush, having made a sudden dash against Gibeah, marched in and put the whole city to sword. The arrangement of the men of Israel had with the men in ambush was that they would send up a smoke signal from the city, and the men of Israel would then wheel about on the battle. Benjamin, having begun by killing off some 30 of the men of Israel, thought, "Surely they are completely routed before us in the earlier fighting." But when the column of smoke began to rise up from the city, Benjamin looked back, and there was a whole city going up in smoke toward heaven. Then the men of Israel wheeled about. The men of Benjamin were thrown into confusion, for they realized the disaster was closing in on them. They retreated before the men of Israel in direction of the wilderness, but the fighting kept pace with them, and those who had been in the city were spreading destruction in between. They surrounded the men of Benjamin, pursued them from Noah, and drove them among the point east of Gibeah. 18,000 from Benjamin fell, all of them warriors. They turned and fled into wilderness, into the crag of Rimmon. The Israelites picked off 5,000 men in the highways and kept pace with them as far as Gidom, where they struck down another 2,000 of them. The total of those from Benjamin who fell that day was 25,000 swordsmen, all of them warriors. 600 men turned and fled into the wilderness of Crag Rimmon, where they remained for 4 months. The men of Israel turned back against the Benjamites, putting them to the sword, the inhabitants of the cities, the livestock, and all they came upon. Moreover, they destroyed by fire all the cities they came upon.